All right, hello and welcome everyone. So today we are going to be doing another Helminth builds video, this time on a probably, unsuspected candidate of Xaku. Obviously, Xaku was just recently announced to be getting a whole host of changes to all of their abilities, and they are all buffs. Xaku, well known, not very good in general. So this video is to talk about the one specific thing that Xaku does better than anything else in the game and is the upgrade for the old way we used to do this. And that is box farming. Box farming, very important in a number of different areas, in all of the open worlds and in like the void for containers and stuff. It is a very important niche, and Xaku does it better than any other Warframe, and that is because they have the Vast on Time. So the Vast on Time is a 25 meter range base range ability that does 1200 damage, and this damage hits containers. This is very important because it is a massive upgrade in terms of range over the previous ability that we used to use, which was Limbo's 4. And it is also a huge damage increase, so some containers that are tougher than the baseline containers wouldn't break from Limbo's 4th ability, but as long as you keep your strength up a little bit on this build, you will cast this once, and as far as I've seen, it will break any container on the map. This is very, very good. And you can combine this with the Helminth injection, which was Pull, which can go over any of the first 3 abilities, but I just like having Pull as a 1 because that's my muscle memory for it. And then with Pull, you add Greedy Pull to be able to pick up all of the things that are coming out of all of the boxes that you're breaking very, very easily. Also, very conveniently, the Vast on Time and Pull have the exact same range. So if you can open the box, you can get the stuff out of the box. Unfortunately, back in ye olden days, Pull, or Greedy Pull specifically, was nerfed to not be through walls, so that you couldn't pick things up through the entire map. So you need line of sight in order to pick up these things, but doing it at significantly larger ranges is still much faster than going around and picking everything up manually, even with vacuum on your side. So that's what this build is for. That's what it does best. Obviously, this is a no forma build, and I have an empty slot here that is polarized that I just don't need. It is worth noting that if I was going to forma this build, this empty mod slot would just be Cunning Drift to edge out the last couple meters that I could get for this. But I've decided that prior to the Xaku nerfs that are incoming, I'm not going to invest any forma into this Warframe, because who knows where Xaku will end up. That being said, if you, for some reason, don't have a leveled Transient Fortitude, and you have a leveled Umbral Intensify, you can totally just put that here. Duration doesn't matter at all. Like, Transient Fortitude is slightly more percent, but even with the 44 instead of the 55, I've seen it break all the containers on the entirety of multiple maps. So that power strength increase won't really matter if you, for whatever reason, don't have a Transient Fortitude. Moving on, let's get to other important things. Obviously, if we're farming materials and things that can be doubled, I am going to be bringing a Smita Kavat. Sometimes your resources get doubled. If you have a resource booster, they get quadrupled. That stuff's fantastic. But for the purposes of this, we are going to do a test run out in Deimos, as that is, the most currently relevant box farm as it stands. And it is very worth noting that any resource pickups you see of me getting in this video, I do have a resource booster going, so just cut all the numbers in half to see what you might be expecting to get. All right, with that, let's run out into the open world and kind of show the route that I have decided on for Deimos. It's gotten pretty specific. I've run it a few times, and I think I hit all of the nice high points on it. Usually this route's going to take about 5 minutes, but I am, of course, going to explain it, so it might take slightly longer. Basically, starting at the Necrolisc, you come out, you check this area for the totem. If it's a good one, you can do that for even more resources, especially if you have a Necromech. That makes that very, very easy. Then you hit the Undulatum, kind of head over here. This zone here is going to have some items up the hill, and then you're going to head down over towards Alberic's Prospect around this corner here. This zone has some good boxes, and then kind of do this whole crevasse here. And then you can head to the other side of the map and do the Abscess if you feel like that's a good use of your time. This whole area here has been kind of a toss-up, whether or not it's worth it for me in my testing. But sometimes the Abscess can be absolutely filled to the brim with loot. So I would test that out a couple times if you're not sure. I am going to show the full route of doing all of that here. Anyway, here we go. So you can obviously see on your map, you can see all the containers and stuff. And you're going to want to hit your 4 and immediately turn it off because you're going to need to preserve that energy. Obviously, until the buffs, Xaku does have Drain on their 4th ability while it's active, so you don't want to keep it active, and you're going to need to recast it anyway. Then these are one of the towers that if it's a good one, you can run that, but it appears that it's not going to be very worth it for us right now. This is also going to be really good if you're farming boss or Voam residue. You can pick all that up, and this will break all of that instantly. And then over here, we have a spot that I'd like to hit around the corner, as there's sometimes, you know, hiding residue there. And then in this zone, we're going to get one of our first pickups. And then basically anytime you're under one of these big overhangs, there's like going to be a lot of stuff to get and a lot of containers to break, just due to there just being like tons of the pods up top like that one, and just all of the items all over. It's also worth noting that usually you're not going to need to pick up any energy, as the containers are pretty, you know, they're pretty generous with the energy drops, so you're not going to need to mess with that too much. And then once again here, popping all this, we're pretty much going to be hitting all of the regular tower locations on this route, so if you are farming that, it's going to be really easy to do. All the items from this area. And you can see we're getting like Dendrite, Blastoma, and stuff like that, which are like moderately rare resources. If you do the towers, that's usually how you're going to get the even more rare resources out of this farm. But now that we have this lower area, we can go up the hill. This area will usually have residue in it, but also there are usually a number of containers here, and there can be a tower right there. See, we're just grabbing everything that we can from this zone. Sometimes you'll have to go a little bit forward here to grab things out of the containers that can spawn that direction. Then once we come out this way, you kind of want to hit this little zone here, as there are sometimes containers that are pretty missable that you wouldn't think would be worth it, but sometimes have a good deal of stuff in them. Looks like we're hitting all of the residue areas this time. We're getting a bunch of that on this run. And then this little area here is kind of the next up on the list. This is one of the mining zones, so if you played the end list, you'll recognize this area. This can have a ton of stuff in it, as you just saw there. We've got a bunch of cognitive nodules and stuff. Those are very good. And then moving on, this is the kind of crevasse area. As you can see, there's tons of items here. This overhang has a ton of things to break. And you can see us getting Iatan stars and stuff, which I'm not going to pause to pick up unless they're orange for me personally. But you can see, like, just breaking an absolute ton of containers and getting all these items. It is worth noting that there's kind of a 2-pass that you need to do on this area, because you do need line of sight to pull. And that's whenever you come out here, make sure you look to the right here to see if there's any like huge piles of resources that you would have missed otherwise. Because it can very often happen that there's like 3 piles of resources that if you just run a horseshoe in there and then come out, you won't even look at. So make sure you get that. And then in this zone, all you really need to worry about is that on the right, there's the cave. And I would very much recommend hitting this cave, as there are usually quite a number of things in it, like there seems to have been this time. And then you can even go a little bit deeper in here and hit it again, and it's just filled to the brim with items. Seems to be one of the better runs for this cave, even on this case. And then there are actually 2 big windows you can jump out of to get out of here really easily and continue to kind of run down this corridor. Get all these items. And then up top here, there's actually another cave, which also can have tons and tons of good items in it. As you can see, we're breaking tons of containers. We can get many rare items from this. A lot of fish parts you're going to get on this, and a lot of the common and uncommon materials from mining. You're not going to get, I think, usually any rares of mining unless you're doing the towers, but you can get like Thaumite and other stuff people are having trouble with. Also, that area can give you the bugs that you can like K-Drive ride on. They're often down there. I've seen them a bunch of different times and caught them. But once you're done with that zone, you can come over here to the Abscess, and this zone is probably the most finicky. You either get a shitload of stuff or absolutely nothing. And it appears that we're going to be okay-ish this time around. Yeah, this is like a decent run for this one. Getting like a good amount of stuff. Actually more middling than I've seen it a lot of goes around here. Yeah, that's pretty good. Obviously, we've got a couple of different items here. And then the last place that I like to hit is over here, just kind of running where these bridges are more so than anything else. The major thing in this area is that whenever you come over here and break everything, you want to get way above the whole area because there can be containers up on top of the ridge like you just saw there that can have some pretty good stuff in them, which I would highly advise you hit.
I appreciate how much your kind enjoy bathing.
Yeah, once you're done with that, there are no other areas that I've really been keen on hitting. This zone here looks like it would probably be pretty good, but I've never had anything significant drop here. And the other zones have been okay-ish. The Deimos Terminus is kind of out of the way, and it's been like kind of middling every time I've gone over there. So that's kind of the route for farming Deimos. And that only took us, it was like 6 minutes with a lot of explaining. It's usually like 4 to 5 minutes if you're just doing it regularly. And when we get back, we can see all the kinds of things you're usually going to be getting from this. Yeah, so we have like a bunch of phosphorus to do, a bunch of sporulate sacs, spinal core sections, saturated muscle mass, which I usually get a lot more of doing this run. But then mainly we have like a ton of the basic resources, a bunch of nanospores, a bunch of pteroglobes, ganglion, bustulite. Good stuff for doing the helmet things. A good chunk of plastids, like just a lot of nice items to have a lot of for a bunch of the trades that you're going to be doing with like daughter and father and all that business. So yeah, lots of good items to be had here, especially if you add the towers in whenever you're doing this route, which is a very easy thing to do. And again, this can be applied to any of the other box breaking farms, that being like whether or not it's in the void or if you're on one of the other open worlds, this is going to be the best for pretty much all of those. So yeah, hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video, and I will see you tomorrow. Hopefully Xaku gets buffed up enough to get like a kind of regular builds video instead of just a farming build, but this build is important nonetheless for a number of different people. So yeah, I will see y'all later.